My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate. And today, what we're going to be talking about is the market update for what's going on in the MatSu Valley, looking specifically at the residential family, the condo market, and the multifamily markets. A lot of uncertainty right now in the world, just with everything that's going on as far as inflation and wars in Ukraine and a lot of other places. So this is just trying to give you as much clarity on what's going on in the real estate market to help you to make good decisions moving forward, whether you're a buyer, seller, or other real estate agent as well. So we'll be jumping into that in just a minute, but before we get started, do make sure you give this video a like. If you haven't done so already, do subscribe so you can receive more information like this in the future. And without further ado, let's go and jump into today's market update, starting specifically with the residential market. The first thing we need to look at is what's going on with the active inventory. So here, what we see is this time last year for February, because this is the month we have the most complete information available right now. We see that there was about 250 homes that were available on the market this time last year. Now there's 203. So compared to where we were this time last year, that's obviously a cut, but nowhere near as much of a cut as we saw if we go a couple of years back, because it goes up to about 600, 650. So you see that we're probably at about a third of where we were kind of this time of year usually. So cut down by over a third. And that's kind of just becoming the new normal, at least for the time being. The next thing that we're seeing is the number of properties that actually sold during this time period actually slightly increased. So even though the number of properties that sold went down, the number of properties available went down, the number of properties that actually sold went up very slightly, because it was about 120 the year before. Now it's 127. Not a huge increase, but still significant because the inventory did go down. The next thing that we're going to look at is what's going on with the average sold price. So this is where it really starts getting eye-opening, as we see the average sold price in the MatSu Valley was about $308,000 approximately, and this year we're seeing it's about $366,000. So that is about a $60,000 increase compared to this time last year for the average sold price. So there's a lot of factors here. And this is something we're going to keep a very close eye on, because historically the MatSu Valley has been a much more affordable place to live than Anchorage. We're starting to see that gap closing just a little bit with what we see in Anchorage, but we'll save that for the summary and talk a little bit more about that then. All right, let's go ahead and change directions real quick and talk about what's going on in the condo market. I've said this 100 times before, but not a whole lot going on in condos in the MatSu Valley, because that's really not the kind of lifestyle people choose when they move to the MatSu Valley. They're looking for a little bit more land, a little bit more privacy, so they can do what they want with their property. Condos really aren't the thing in vogue, but they're here. They're going to continue growing in importance, so we're going to talk about it. So the number of condos that were available this time last year were 2. The number of condos available this year are 2, and hopefully they're not the same 2 condos, but yes, we're maintaining where we were this time last year. This time last year, we sold 5 condos. This time this year, we've sold 2 condos. So you see a decrease there. The next thing that we're seeing is that the average sold price went from about $162,000 to about 200. I think it's about 226,000 if I recall correctly. So seeing a sizable increase in the average sold price. By kind of a smaller sample size, it's hard to know exactly how significant this is. I've no doubt that there's some aggressive appreciation. I don't know if it's quite that aggressive. Might have just something to do with the specific condos that were sold, because there's such a small sample size. But there you go. Average sold price for condos has definitely seen a significant increase. All right, let's go ahead and take a break real quick here. For those of you who've been watching for a bit, you do know that I host a podcast in addition to running the Alaska Realtor YouTube channel. If you want to hear from people who have actually made the move recently and kind of hear about their tips and tricks they had for relocating up here to Alaska, certainly feel free to check out the Alaska Journey. And the link for that is going to be in the going to be in the description section down below. So make sure you go check that out. And without further ado, let's go and finish up today's market update, looking at what's going on in the multifamily market. So the first thing on the multifamily market, we see that It did see a bit of a decrease from the year before, but not too much. It was about 17 properties were available on the market this time last year. Now it's 13. So compared to the year before, not a big deal. That's a completely different story when we look at a couple of years previous before everything kind of went sideways with COVID, but we'll save that for the summary. Now, the next thing we see for multifamilies is that the number of properties that sold this time last year was 11, and now it's 5. So, even though I'm sure there's lots of demand out there, we're not seeing a whole lot of movement for properties and multifamilies that are actually moving right now. So, you get to a certain point where the inventory is just so compressed, you can't just keep putting up more and more properties that have actually sold year over year just continuously. Eventually, you're going to run out of steam, and you're going to start seeing number of overall properties that sold start to take a little bit of a hit. Last but not least, we are seeing that the average sold price went from about $437,000, went down to about $435,000. So we're seeing a slight decrease in the average sold price for multifamily properties in the MatSu Valley. It's such a small sample size, it's hard to know really what that's an indication of. It might just be that the properties that were bought during that time period just happened to be a little bit not as high priced as properties from the year before. Perhaps it was all duplexes that sold this time, and last year it was all triplexes or fourplexes. So it's really hard to tell. So just looking at the big 30,000 foot view though as a summary, let's go ahead and take a look. So we've got the residential market. Like I said before, we're looking at about a third of the inventory, less than a third of the inventory than we had this year compared to the past previous years. Not looking just at last year, because last year was an anomaly. This year isn't an anomaly. And so what we see is we're down by about a third of what we usually see for this time of year. We're expecting to see the average sold prices continue to climb. So that unfortunately just is what it is. This is not a bubble. There's no indication that this is just going to pop and then suddenly it's going to be a crazy buyer's market. That is not founded in any kind of statistical analysis or data. That's just kind of wishful thinking and people looking back to other markets and hoping it's the same when the fundamentals are absolutely not. So that's on the residential side. If you're a buyer, not to worry. You need to grab something as quick as you can while the interest rates are low, so you can ride that aggressive appreciation up instead of trying to wait and then finding out the market's not going to crash and now, everything's more expensive and the interest rates are higher. So if you're a buyer, time is of the essence and we got to go. If you're a seller, then use this market while it's here. It's not going to last forever, but really the good thing right now is you've got the speed and the momentum going behind you. You've got highly motivated buyers, and they're going to be willing to give you good terms and not just a higher sales price, because a high sales price can only go up so far, and really what you want to get are good terms along with the actual deal. So if you are considering making a move, certainly do reach out to me. We can talk a little bit and see if we can help you to make that transition a little bit smoother. For those of you who are investors, big takeaway that we're seeing right now is that investing is still very popular in the MatSu Valley as rents are going up, which they will. As rents continue to go up, the investment properties are going to continue being more valuable, which is probably why we're seeing a compression of the number of properties that are being sold right now for multifamily. Because you would think after all the COVID moratoriums and we can't evict anybody, that everybody's suddenly going to want to sell their investment properties, and that has not been the case at all. Okay, that's really hasn't been what I've seen so far. Maybe a couple instances here and there, but by and large, investors want to hold on to their investment properties because rents are going up and the interest rates and all the other terms of their mortgage are staying the same. So there's no reason you wouldn't want to be an investor right now. So thank you for watching. I sure hope this has been useful. If it has, again, give this video a like. And if you have questions, do feel free to reach out to me on my website down below and be happy to talk and see how best I can help you.